Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Guitar Souls podcast. This is episode number 72, we believe. We haven't bothered checking this. And I can see Mike doing all of these lovely little symbols for you. So if you are enjoying the podcast in video form, you get to enjoy all of those. But if you're not, if you're just listening, that's absolutely fine too. We're going to come at you with our lovely sultry tones today. And hopefully you will enjoy your time with us. I am one of your hosts, Mr. Levi Clay, and I am here with my good friend, Mr. Mike McLaughlin. How's it going, bud?
Surviving. That's probably the most animated I've been in quite a few weeks. As you all know, I'm having problems with my stomach at the moment, so I don't know if I told you this. I phoned the doctor and the doctor said the machine we would usually do your tests on was basically out of commission because it was being used for COVID tests. So we need more of your poo, or we can just give you the antibiotics we think will fix you. And I was like, cool, okay. And he says, right, that's fine. It's a week course of 2 separate antibiotics and you are going to feel worse for a week. Oh, great, thanks, that's fantastic. So I've got even more stomach upset, cramps, sickness, nausea, etc. to look forward to.
This is, I think, one of those kind of downsides of the whole COVID thing that people don't really think about, but it's knocking the health service significantly, because I'm an outpatient for the endocrinology section of hospital up here, of hospitals up here. I'm seeking treatment for hormone issues. I have virtually no testosterone, which you'd never believe, and they're constantly trying to work out why that is. And I go in every 6 months and do blood tests, and trying to keep a check of what's wrong with me and make sure I'm not dying, etc. And I just got a letter through from them saying, yeah, due to COVID, we're not going to see you for a while. No appointments for you, so we're cancelling all your appointments, etc., etc. And I'm like, awesome. Let's hope I don't die.
I'm sure you'll be all right.
Yeah, I'm just no testosterone probably isn't going to kill me, but
it's certainly not good though. No, obviously,
not
having
ideal
to do things about it.
Yeah,
but.
Long series of life. That's what life is, isn't it? You just get older and gradually more and more parts of you just cease working. So
life is trying to make improvements and somehow stepping backwards. For example, I bought a new microphone, and the 30 minutes of hassle we had trying to get, whether it was the cable or the interface, discovered it's probably the interface, for this to even get a fucking signal it's just stupid. Anyway, it's working now.
It's funny because when you were doing it, I was like 10 seconds away from saying, mate, just walk across the road and just come and record here, because everything's getting that way. But it was getting that way. We're stubborn. That's talking about humans being these beings that exist and then just gradually cease to exist and cease working on the way there. We're also men, which means we're really stubborn.
I'm also a Scottish man, which means that unless I have like a severed head, I'm not going to the doctor.
Yeah, fair. And that will also explain why your interface was free. So there's that.
I don't own it. I'm giving it back. It's a loan just a long-term loan because it was a spare one. I had a spare one which I gave away. Speaking of,
you're ruining my segues here. Speaking of things that aren't quite free but are still worth your time, did you know? This show is brought to you by Ormsby Guitars. We want to thank Perry and the guys over at Ormsby for all of their support. It is very much appreciated. For those unfamiliar with Ormsby and what they do, they're wonderful guitars built by Perry out in Australia. And probably what they're most notable for in recent years is actually doing these runs of guitars that are actually built offshore and then brought into Australia for quality control and then sent on out. So if you head on over to ormsbyguitars.com and check out the pre-order section on their website, you can check out some of the upcoming runs, get involved for a very low price, and prepayment plans, payment over a series of months. Great way to get yourself a killer instrument and an absolutely killer price. So as always, thank you so much for the support, guys. Check them out and let them know that we sent you. Anyway, on with the show. So as always, a massive thank you to our friends over at Ormsby Guitars. And I have to say, I love Ormsby, but at the same time, I'm a little bit upset with them at the moment because I keep seeing that they keep posting pictures of my Red Dead Goliath. They're posting it all over social media, and now everybody is leaving comments on it saying, oh, you've got to make these for the next run, and oh, I want one of these. No, that is my guitar. You stay off my guitar, my special guitar. Let it be special. Please don't.
I hope they make them, and they make the most of them, the most of any model they've ever done in any finish.
Me too, actually, because then no matter where I see it, I will just remind everybody that this is actually the Levi Clay signature. So
I would love if every single scratch plate, or cavity plate in the back said "Not Levi Clay's signature," just to annoy you. But anyway,
and I would happily sign every single one of them, not sign Levi Clay's signature. Yeah. So one more time, big thank you to Perry and the guys over at Ormsby. Please do go and check them out.
Yes.
Our show today is definitely a weird one because. We're lining up all these stories, and I have to remind myself as we do it that we are supposed to be a guitar-related podcast. And of course, most of the stuff we're talking about today is music industry, music business stuff, and things for us to rage about. But we do want to open the show today by talking about one guitar player, at least. And this happened... Literally, I think, the stories of this went up maybe an hour or so after the last podcast went live. Fleetwood Mac co-founding guitarist Peter Green dies, age 73. So, you want to check this story out, Mike?
Absolutely. So it was Music Radar that we were looking at on. One of the UK's most influential guitarists passes away in his sleep. Fleetwood Mac co-founder Peter Green has passed away aged 73. A statement from solicitors acting on behalf of the guitarist's family confirmed he had died over the weekend, which is a bit of a fucking blow for the music scene, really. It's not as if they're a small band or unknown. Yeah. And it's not like Peter Green's influence hasn't stretched across the guitar world. Yeah. The statement from Swan Turton solicitors said, "It's with great sadness the family of Peter Green announce his death this weekend, peacefully in his sleep. A further statement will be provided in the coming days." Green was one of the most influential guitarists in British music history, cited as an inspiration by players including Gary Moore, Rich Robinson, Kirk Hammett, Santana and Tom Petty. His work in John Mayall's Blues Breaker and the early era of Fleetwood Mac highlighted a gifting blues player and songwriter, with his songs Black Magic Woman, On Well, Man of the World, Rattlesnake Shake, Albatross, The Green Manalishi with the two-pronged crown, recognised as classics. I'll be honest, I don't really know a lot of Peter Green stuff. He's not somebody I've ever really got into. I mean, I know Albatross. You couldn't not know Albatross if you stayed in the UK, unless you didn't watch TV or didn't have ears. Sure. Now, M&S really rode that, didn't they?
The sound of M&S, yeah. Absolutely,
because as soon as you hear that dring, dring, you're like, this isn't just, this is M&S.
Yeah. It doesn't surprise me that, it totally makes sense that Peter Green wouldn't be somebody that you'd be a huge fan of because you grew up as a metal guy. Same, Peter Green wasn't somebody that I really discovered until much later on in my guitar playing life because I've gone into that blues thing. But even then, that kind of British blues explosion thing isn't really my passion. It's not an area I love, so I'm not going to sit here and say I'm heartbroken that Peter Green died because he wasn't one of my bigger influences, but there's an undeniable respect for the man and an acknowledgement of how important he was to certainly the development of electric blues and the kind of post 60s boom that we kind of resurged from the UK. And it's a shame, and his I think he's often been featured. His name comes up more so in the last few years, not because of his music, but because of his famous Les Paul, right, Greenie, which would go on to be Gary Moore's Les Paul, which is now Kirk Hammett's Les Paul. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, there was a short time in between Gary Moore owning it and Kirk Hammett that I played it. I didn't get to own it, unfortunately. Very, very expensive guitar. A little bit beyond my price range. But yeah.
Where did you play that?
We had it in the Lick Library studio for Guitar Interactive magazine. It was bought in for we did a review on it. Very, very odd experience because it was owned by somebody, or somebody was a custodian of it, and it was just stored in a bank vault. And when the insurers were informed that it was leaving the bank vault to go to our studio for video content to be made, they sent a personal guard with it. So this guitar came into the studio with a guard, with a big burly man that never let it out of his sight. Because it was.
How much was it insured for?
I think it was insured for $1 million. It was either $1 million or $500,000. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, had to take the opportunity to pick that one up and play a few chords on it. Yeah, so,
as you do.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think I'll ever play a guitar with as much history as that ever again. So yeah, definitely a shame, and one that will be. I don't even want to say sorely missed, because you know what I mean. Like, his legacy is his legacy. He's just as influential to people today as he was 2 weeks ago. So I think that's kind of like a reminder that when you pour your passion into art and you express yourself in a way that other people can relate to, you are, not literally, but for all intents and purposes, you become immortal. Peter Green will never, ever, ever be forgotten because of his creative output that he brought to the world. And I think that's a happier thing a better way of looking at things than thinking, oh no, this man died. This man, along with all of the people that we talk about on this podcast, are now greater than men. They are more powerful than men. And something as pathetic as death can't stop them. So,
you're right, man.
Yeah, farewell,
That's a
Peter.
really nice way to put it.
Farewell, Peter. But thank you for all the inspiration that you brought to many guitarists. And I'd certainly say that without guys like that doing their thing throughout the UK, which would go on to help the rise up. Well, obviously you mentioned Fleetwood Mac, but of course bands like Zeppelin and Sabbath, like those acts wouldn't exist without that kind of UK popularisation of the blues that happened. And without those, would heavy metal be here? Probably not. So we could say that Peter Green is a very long, distant relative, a distant father, if you like, of one of the ancestors, if you like, of the style that we love so much. So well done, Peter.
Yep. And speaking of distance, Frank Turner's socially distanced trial gig was not a success.
Hang on. Are you stealing my segues?
Fucking right, I am.
You've learned. You did very well there.
Thanks, mate. Thanks for it. Thank you.
Go on.
So this was BBC News. I thought we'd just move on a wee bit quicker.
Sure.
I know that we've been quite good at trailing the shows on again.
Yeah.
Way past the other. So we'll try and keep this one short and snappy and sweet for an ill Sunday for me to go and lie down and feel sorry for myself. Anyway, Frank Turner's socially distanced trial gig not a success, and this was
shock fucking horror.
I know, the 29th of July, so that would have been 5 days ago?
Yeah,
4 days ago. So this was reported in the BBC. A gig used to trial safety measures for the return of live music did not succeed in providing a blueprint for the industry, according to the manager of the venue that hosted the event. Folk rocker Frank Turner played to a socially distanced audience at London's Clapham Grand on Tuesday. Only 200 people attended, compared to the venue's normal capacity of 1,250. Venue manager Ali Wolf said the government-backed pilot was not financially viable for venues. I know shit. It can't be the future for live music. It can't be the future for venues, he said, noting that the show did not make enough money to cover the venue's operating costs, even before the performer's fee was taken into account. Live music in the UK has been almost completely cancelled since March due to the lockdown and social distancing regulations. Blah, blah, blah. So,
it's...
why did they think this was going to work?
Yeah, r/leopards ate my face. Of course this wasn't going to work. Well, we're going to talk about the Spotify thing later in the show, and you can take it. There is obviously another take to this. You could certainly look at this and say, well, this is a viable future for music. If this is going to work, you just have to go with the maths. You can't look at this and go, the venue usually holds 1,250 people. We've only got 200 people in. Hopefully we'll still make all of the money. That's just, who thought that was going to work? The only way that this could possibly work is if you were charging 6 times more for the tickets and you were charging 6 times more for all the drinks. Right? But even then, we have to look at that and say, that's also probably not going to work. But,
Can I have a pint of Carlin, please? £27, thanks. Pardon?
No. Sorry, I said 6 times more. Like, £27 is about the price you pay in London anyway.
Aye, that's right.
Actually, at 6 times more, £27 would be cheap. So, in a venue like that, you'd be looking at about £6 a pint. So,
anytime I've played in London,
a pint.
You're right. Anytime I've played in London, I've been in pubs. It's usually in the Black Hart in Camden, right? And I'm like, £5.50 for a can of beer, like £5.80 for this beer that I don't know on draft. And then you drink and you're like, that's all right, and this is probably cheap. The more I think about it, I'm like, yep, I could no doubt if we went to like the Shard for a glass of wine, I would be fucking 40 quid out of pocket or something. So, fuck this.
Yeah, I've certainly found myself in cocktail bars in London where you're looking at £20 a cocktail.
And the answer is no.
Fantastic. Yes.
I'll go and drink at the urinal instead.
No, you're just going to nip around all of the tables and pick up everyone else's dregs. That's
minesweeping. Minesweeping
has a name, of course it does.
It does have a name. There used to be like the social clubs up here, like the
like the miners type things.
Exactly. Yeah. Are they a big thing? I know they're a big thing in kind of northern England. Do they happen much down kind of London way and further kind of south?
Well, so growing up in Suffolk, I certainly knew of men's social clubs, the British Legion, the Royal British Legion.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Type of thing. But not something I really observed much of in London. So I'm sure it exists.
Yeah. It seems if it's too dense for those things to kind of happen. Plus, a lot of the miners' clubs and stuff was because they were miners, and I don't imagine there was a lot of mining happening in central London. Yeah. But I remember being at a party at a miners' club when I was younger and seeing people going round the tables at the end of the night, mine sweeping, and I'm pretty certain the bar staff used to take the dregs, like the spill tray, and fill it in a pint glass and sit it somewhere and just watch for somebody to try and drink it. Can you imagine like a cocktail of every bit of drink and spilled drink and poured out pint in one cup,
warm as well?
It's fucking revolting, man.
Yeah.
And just another wee random snippet: the most expensive beer I've ever had in my life was in Switzerland. It was £9 for a bottle of beer, which is about €9.
I like the way you went.
Shit myself.
You converted that from a currency that we don't use to a currency that we don't use.
But you know the value of a euro.
Yeah, no,
probably
sure,
don't know the euro for a krone.
Yeah.
It was just the guy opened the bottle and gave me it, smiling, and then said the price, and I was like, "Did you just shit in my mouth? Like, are you kidding on? There's no way that's actually how much it costs."
When I used to go to Ronnie Scott's a lot. I used to be a member at Ronnie Scott's. And I loved going in there to see a great jazz show, but also sit down for a meal, because it's a sit down experience. So you sit down for a really nice steak, and the drink that I liked to drink in there was, when I was a proper cider drinker, they had the Savannah Dry, which is a nice cider, but it came out to you in this. It was a bottle, but a small bottle, like a 300ml bottle, like tiny little bottle. That was like £6.50, £7 or something like that. It's just an obscene amount of money.
You go into Asda and you get like a big bottle of Savannah Dry for about 80p.
Yeah. So shock fucking horror. Who would have guessed that a socially distanced concert didn't work? And looking at the pictures of it, obviously you've got some on screen now, there's something that doesn't look right about it. It's got that kind of look of an intimate concert experience, and nothing wrong with that. It looks very much like the sort of thing that you'd expect to see at somewhere like Ronnie's. But then you look at the guy on stage and it's like, big Showtime thing, and these two things can't coexist. I don't think that we need to be all doom and gloom about it and say that live music is never coming back. And hopefully, definitely at some point we'll move away from this concept of social distance and just being the norm, hopefully.
It will happen. We just need to be patient.
But in the meantime, we just need to. It's the same old thing that I'm always saying about music business. You need to adapt and overcome, and not be fucking naive, thinking, well, I'm just used to 1,200 people coming to see my gig. Well, I'm sure if 200 people come, it'll be just about the same. No, it won't.
It's not really the artist that'll be worrying though, because let's be honest. Well, end of the line it will be, but in terms of getting paid, because the artist's going to have the management that will say, well, we've already agreed.
Yeah.
This is your contract. You're paying us this. This is what you said you would pay us.
Yeah.
So it's really down to the promotions company and the venue.
Sure.
That's going to have the issues, but that has a knock-on effect. I don't mean that as in all artists are golden and every musician right now is sitting at home on some sort of imaginary furlough. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, totally know what you mean. Having said that,
it's not good.
Thinking of this idea of never being able to see an artist that you love ever again, unless it was in one of these socially distanced kind of settings, that's not something I'd really want to. That's not a world I'd want to live in. I would, and you'll see where I'm going with this. I would much rather take a swift kick in the balls than not be able to see my favourite artists.
You tailored that together. That
was really good. Speaking of swift. Yeah, again, you're fucking out segueing me. You've got to stop this. I'll be having words with management if you carry on with this.
For somebody that has had not much brain function the last couple of days, I'm doing alright.
You're super on point.
You know what I think it is, right? The genuine 30 minutes of stressing my tits off trying to get this microphone working has just been like, my brain's like, no, this is going to work and it's going to be good. You will do it good and it will be good. You will like it. It'll be fine.
And you've decided to outgood me, so... But I like it.
A broken clock's twice at least right a day. Right at least twice a day. Fuck me, I can't even say the saying.
Doesn't get the sentence right, but the sentiment is still there. Let's talk
the sediment's still there.
Let's talk about Taylor Swift's new album.
Have you heard it?
Totally not guitar, right? I actually, both times you called me today, I was listening to it on Spotify just to get a feel
good,
for it. Yeah, it's good. I mean, I really like Taylor. I do. I really like Taylor Swift. I respect her as an artist. Like, I can't say anything other than I really respect her as an artist. She's somebody that has changed so significantly in her style. You never know what you're going to get with Taylor, and I just massive amounts of respect for that.
I think she's done the same as Lady Gaga, as in went in with her own personality, fit perfectly into the pop genre, but like as themselves, and then went, cool, I've carved enough of a path that I can do whatever the fuck I want. This is the music I want to write. This is the stuff I enjoy putting out. And then went their own way. Like Lady Gaga went down the line with Joanne, and it was all kind of almost country and folky. And Taylor Swift's kind of done the same. Went, I'm just going to strip shit back and do what I want.
Yeah,
but can still write like completely unashamedly banger pop classics. Yeah,
if you if for some reason you had never listened to Taylor Swift's music, and you listen to this new album, like it's got a very kind of, it's still pop, but there's like an indie edge to it. There's a lot of piano. It's called folklore. It's got like a folky edge to it, and cool, right? But then you think of her previous singles, all the big ones. What's the name of all those singles?
Shake It Off.
Oh, Shake It Off. What? There, let's go.
I knew you were trouble when you walked in.
That to me is like kind of quintessential pop stuff that I think you think of for our generation, at least for the current generation. But then if you go right back and look at her early stuff and look at songs like Love Story, like that's country. That's country. That's
where she came from.
Yeah, and
for definite.
I really admire that. I like that she's clearly. You could be cynical and you could say, well, yeah, but the reason she's changed her style is because she wanted to be more commercially viable. Well, maybe, but I don't look bad at that. That doesn't seem bad to me. It's like, okay, so you're telling me an artist, an upside of being popular is that you make more money, sure, but an artist chose to adjust their sound so they would appeal to more people, so they could bring more joy to more people, and you want to tell me that that's a bad thing? I don't see that as a bad thing. That's don't homogenize yourself too much, but looking for an audience and keeping that audience happy. She brings a lot of joy to a lot of people, so
she does.
Good on you, Taylor. I like that. Having said that,
we should probably dive into the actual story.
Yeah, exactly.
Other than you and I, like absolutely worshipping her.
Yeah.
Taylor Swift kept folklore album release secret from record label. The Nationals Aaron Dessner says. Bull. This was reported in the Independent.
Bull. Absolute bullshit.
You think so?
Yeah.
You think it's a PR stunt?
Yeah. Go on.
No. It wouldn't surprise me. So Taylor Swift's new album Folklore was such a secret that even her record label wasn't told about it. On Thursday the 23rd of July, Swift announced that her new album would be dropping at midnight the following day, less than a year since her last studio album Lover premiered. I mean, who recorded it then?
Yeah, no, I love this idea of like Taylor Swift putting this tweet out and then immediately running over to fucking DistroKid to upload her secret album that no one knew about. You know what I mean? Like, what do you mean the album's dropping at midnight? Oh yeah, the album's, and all this like digital distribution has all been sorted out and all the marketing is all there for it and everything. And but the label, they don't know anything about it. Fuck off.
I mean, there might be some truth to it. I'm not sure there is, but we'll read further in.
Yeah.
Because the National are another band, remember? That's not a
sure.
outlet. It's another musician.
Yep.
Anyway, I'll keep reading. Sorry. A departure from her last pop-driven album, Folklore saw Swift collaborate with the Nationals' Aaron Dessner, who told Pitchfork the album was kept tightly under wraps until the very last minute to prevent any information from leaking. There was no outside influence at all, Dessner said. In fact, nobody knew, including her label, until hours before it was launched. For someone who's been in this glaring spotlight for 15 years, it's really liberating to have some privacy and work on her own terms. She deserves that.
So,
how would you know that it's liberating and privacy was working on her own terms? Like, you speaking on her behalf, because then she isn't working on her own terms or having privacy. You are literally advocating for her.
Yeah, so I have to, when I look at this, I just feel that the mainstream media have taken that little quote and they've extrapolated information that isn't actually presented in there. To say that the record label didn't know about the album release was kept secret. No, of course it wasn't. The record label absolutely knew when the album was due to be released, right? The thing that will have been kept secret from absolutely everybody is the record label won't have known what any of the music sounded like. They won't have listened to it. They won't have had somebody in there checking that they were all right with the release. They will have given her that freedom to know that, you know what, we have enough confidence in your musical ability, Taylor, that you're going to make an album that will be financially viable. So you do you, we won't bother you. They won't have said it's coming out on this day. They will have probably said to her, when do you want it to be released, etc. They knew all of this stuff, but that's the privacy. Just read that quote one more time, and for anyone listening to us, consider the perspective that I've just brought to that, and see if that sounds viable.
So there was no outside influence at all, Dessner said. In fact, nobody knew, including her label, until hours before it was launched. For someone who's been in this glaring spotlight for 15 years, it's really liberating to have some privacy and work on her own terms. She deserves that. He continued, at times, if I wanted friends to play on the record, it was a little difficult because you can't send a file with her vocals. But everyone was cool. At the end, I reached out to some wizards just to add bits, and that was nice. It was kind of fun. What? Why can't you tell me, Aaron? Then they started guessing. Everyone made a game out of it. As well as Dessner, Swift collaborated with Bon Iver and songwriter Jack Antonoff on the record. I mean, it makes sense if it's going to be folk that you get Bon Iver on.
Sure.
The Independent's Roisin O'Connor gave Folklore a 4-star review, writing, "This shimmering album is exquisite piano-based poetry."
So, yeah.
Did you, aye?
Yeah, it's just it's just horseshit, absolute horseshit. The record label didn't know about the album. God, who buys that? Who reads that and goes, "Oh wow, she's such a strong, independent woman that she just makes albums and doesn't even tell the people that are going to be releasing it for her." Fuck right off. I take no issue with this story though, because it's not Taylor that's saying it. You know what I mean?
No, it's not.
If this was a story where Taylor was saying, "Yeah, well, I kept my album completely secret from the label. They didn't even know that I was releasing it. They didn't even know that the album existed until I tweeted out saying the album's coming out at midnight." So, like, I send out a tweet and then suddenly the record label phones me and says, what? And she's like, "Yeah, best get all your people on that. You know, here are all the files. Get it uploaded. Get it manufactured."
No, the record label itself, it has to be an Australian that's on the phone. You fucking what, cunt? It has to be something totally obnoxious.
Yeah.
In terms of, or like somebody Scottish just been like, "For fuck's sake, what?"
I like what you did with obnoxious there, because let's continue talking about Taylor Swift by talking about her fucking obnoxious fans.
Yes.
This is the downside of being
rabid fandom.
Yeah, as awesome and popular as Taylor is, you just attract the fucking dregs of society.
Not always, but you're right. I mean, people... You know what? I was going to mention this earlier on. We didn't quite get to it because I'm talking about Taylor Swift again.
Sure.
Or still talking about Taylor Swift. There's all these rumours on the internet that Taylor Swift used to frequent Reddit and 4chan quite a lot, and essentially as a shit poster, but hasn't revealed that yet.
Yep.
I can guarantee that if there's any truth to that, and some of those fans have transferred from 4chan or Reddit or lurking in the dark parts of the internet that are still on the upper level, these are probably the people that would be responsible for this piece of toxic fandom we're about to talk about. Yeah. I'll let you take this one because I've kind of taken the reins with the rest.
But I can't read.
I know you're ready to rant on it though. I can feel it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to inspire a wee age time here.
Fair. So Taylor Swift fans share music critics' address, phone numbers, and threaten to burn down her home hours after she gave the singer's new album an 8 out of 10 review that followers deemed was not enough. What? Right? I hate that headline because I read that and I'm like, well, this is obviously massively sensationalized. They jump into conclusions on this one. But they absolutely won't be. So let me read it. Taylor Swift fans harassed Pitchfork's editor following her review of the star's new album, which, though positive, wasn't sparkling enough. On Monday, Pitchfork's senior editor, Gillian Mapes, published a review of the singer's 8th album, Folklore, and hours later was bombarded with angry messages on social media where crazed fans tweeted out her address, phone number, and photos of her home and herself. However, Mapes' review gave Swift's album an 8 out of 10, And I should just point out that in the Mail story that I'm reading, they've gone with the word 8 and then the number 10 there. So good quality journalism there.
I mean, they would be the people that would report about real toxic fans. It's probably somebody that's one of the editors at the Daily Mail that's actually done this and then went, by the way, you want a wee inside story?
Yeah.
That's not a serious allegation before I get fucking sued.
Fair point. So the review wasn't positive enough for fans who harassed the writer, even though the score wasn't her own. It was determined by the ratings of multiple staffers. Die-hard fans proceeded to dox the editor, threatened to burn down her home and send her hexing tweets paired with satanic images of Swift. Okay, cool. One tweet paired with a demonic image of Swift was written in the Ethiopian language, Amharic, yeah, maybe. Saying, anyone who comes after the Dark Queen, Taylor Swift, dies alone and will be burned forever. You will be filled with your dark fears and demons. You will never be happy and never sleep well again. Mapes has been targeted with death threats on and off the internet, including late-night threatening phone calls to her cell phone. Some of those calls came in around 2 in the morning, just an hour after her review was published online. Mapes tweeted on Tuesday that she received more Twitter threats to roll up and harm me than I could stomach to go through. I've gotten through too many emails, which are some version of, you're an ugly fat bitch who is clearly jealous of Taylor, please die, which is not the first time I've heard that from pop stans, she said. It sucked to be scared of every person milling about outside or feel like you can't answer the phone. That said, I'm safe and I'm doing fine, she added. She's now made her Twitter account private. The Swift fans fixated much of their attack on the concern over the album's Metacritic score, which on Thursday sat at 89. And that's really what this comes down to. I'm reading a tweet here that says, disgusted to hear that Juno Mapes is being harassed and even threatened by Taylor Swift fans, with phone calls coming to her house in the middle of the night even. Fandom is toxic and there's nothing funny about this. And that's it. That's the perfect summary, right? Like, this is just so unbelievably toxic. Just read it. So that was obviously from a verified account. When I read this tweet, I know your address, let me plan something. Or someone tweeting at Metacritic and saying, be professional and don't count the New York Times folklore review. The writer didn't like the album because he called Taylor a pop singer, and Folklore isn't a pop album like Her's latest release, Skull. This man's also racist and sexist. Why do you care? Why do these people care so much?
Let's take a wee step back. This has all the trademark hallmarks of being a 4chan troll. The broken English, the bombardment, the extreme fucking actions they'll go to, and they're trying to make out that it's somebody else. Like, have you seen the shit they done with Justin Bieber? There was a thing that it was like, if you're a Justin Bieber fan, you'll cut yourself, and it was cut for Bieber, and it was young girls like either shaving their hair or cutting themselves for Justin Bieber and all these other weird things. It would not surprise me in the slightest if this is some idiot on a forum like, let's weaponize all our fucking disgusting actions and let's pretend that we are the fans of Taylor Swift going out on a limb, and we'll just cause some hassle because, for the lulz, as the main reason is for anyone 4chan or any of these shite sites. Anybody that's not aware of 4chan, it's an image posting forum. I think they're hosted in China or Japan, potentially. There's a lot of anime and stuff on there. Anyway, there's a board on there called Random, which is /b/, and essentially it's like the worst place on the internet that isn't on Tor, so don't go there.
Clearly you've not been on 8chan.
8chan is just 4chan newer. I mean,
and
4chan
much worse.
Is it? Okay,
oh yeah.
I remember stories of 4chan about people having threads on it where they were like, guess my location, blah blah blah, and it turned out that the location that the person was talking about actually had a body buried in it. Right. Other one where it was like, guess what's in my freezer, and people were like, oh, a human leg, and then all of a sudden there was a photo of a human leg, or a guy that found a skull at a dig and said, you tell me what to do. The person that rolls doubles or gets doubles in the next post number can tell me what to do, and the answer was to put your dick in the eye socket, which came a photo of a man literally skull fucking an artifact. Like, it's just the worst place. It's the worst.
Yeah, I'm telling you, don't visit 8chan.
I don't fancy it.
So, like, you make points about 4chan there, and I'm not going to disagree with 4chan just being a hive of scum and villainy, as they say.
A wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Scum and villainy. I don't think, though, that it's right to just immediately look at shit behaviour like this and then just go, well, that must be 4chan trolls. Like, it's entirely plausible that... Because it's that mob mentality thing, isn't it? Like, it takes one or two people that tweet about this and are like, oh, we need to make sure that, Metacritic don't take these scores into account. And then before you know it, a stupid tweet has turned into a movement.
Yes, it could be. I'm not saying that this couldn't very well be, or isn't very much likely to be, an organic fucking, I don't know, escalation of one person unhappy about a review that wasn't 10 out of 10 gleaming, and it became, as you say, mob mentality. Sure. Before you know it, somebody's pitchfork and fucking flaming stick at the ready, you know what I mean? It does happen.
I guess the question is, like, why does it matter if somebody gave an album an 8 out of 10? Why would it matter if they gave it a 2 out of 10? Like, I'm alright with that. As a fan of something, I'm interested in people's opinions, and if there's an album that I absolutely love and someone else tells me that they thought it was garbage, my first kind of reaction is not to attack that person or tell them their opinion isn't valid. I'm genuinely interested to know, what they hated about it, what they didn't like about it, and I'm not going to go out of my way to try and change their mind either. It's interesting to hear different people's opinions on things. Like, no artist is perfect. Absolutely no artist is perfect. There are albums that I'm sure that you could reel off a list of albums that you could send to these people that you think are amazing, that they would all say, oh, it's garbage, 1 out of 10. But so what? Like, we're all different, and it's really cool that Taylor can release something that some people like and other people don't. That's just how fucking music is. Be a fucking adult. Go out into the real world and understand that not everybody shares the same fucking opinions as you. That's all right. People are allowed different. They're allowed to like different bits of art, I guess is what I'm saying. It should be encouraged. A little bit of variation in the world makes the world a little bit of a better place. It really does. It
I knew you were going to rage time at some point. I could feel it.
It definitely winds me up. It really winds me up because we started talking about Taylor and I was so positive about Taylor, but this is just the inevitable conclusion of when you mix somebody with that level of stardom and young people that don't understand how to conduct themselves in a fucking civilized society.
Yeah, people are assholes. That's just the gist of it, I think. You need to go over. I mean, I don't think Taylor Swift isn't innocent in the conception of this kind of thing happening, because if you read this story, and if you remember correctly, she kind of mobilised her Twitter stands when she got fucked over by that record label that held all the rights to her music. Remember, she was doing like some sort of concert and she wasn't allowed to play any of her earlier stuff because somebody else owned the mechanical rights or something. I'll just read out what it says here. Swift wielded the power of her following during her battle with Big Machine label group CEO Scott Borchetta and Ithaca Holdings CEO Scooter Braun last year. Braun announced it acquired Big Machine in a reportedly $300 million acquisition. The move outraged Swift as Big Machine retained ownership of her first 6 albums, saying she was sad and grossed out by the deal due to her bad blood with Braun, specifically his clients Justin Bieber and Kanye West. Swift urged followers to let Scott Borchetta and Scooter Braun know how you feel, and fans doxed both men. Swifties also responded with racial slurs and death threats after comedians Dacis and Miro body shamed her by joking she had a very long back.
Yeah.
How's that an insult? You're tall.
You could be tall for many reasons. You could be tall because you have very long legs. You could be tall because you have a very long neck. I think both of those things are things that people are all right with. But a very long back.
Don't you fucking dare say that I have an elongated spine.
Yeah.
Stupid.
Also worth remembering though that Taylor once sued a man for $1. For $1 because it was a principle thing rather than a monetary thing. It wasn't. It wasn't. I want money. It was. I'm going to stand by my principles, and the principle of you being told by a court that you're wrong is more important than me ruining you for it. I like her. I do. I like her, and I think in that particular instance where you're talking about fighting for what's yours. Letting people know that it's not okay to kind of screw you over is nowhere near as bad as this person said something that I don't like go and get them.
Oh, for sure.
And even then, even in that case, you said, that these people were doxed. Never dox people. It's not appropriate. It's not a good thing to do. You're not. You're not a good person. Doesn't make you a good person.
Yep. If you don't think it would be fair for your address and personal details to be put on the internet for people to harass you, potentially plan to hurt you, don't do it to anyone else.
But Mike, don't you know that the person that I'm doxing is bad? The person I'm doxing is a bad person. They've said and done bad things. They think bad things. So we need to do something. Crime. Yeah, we need to do something about it. They're bad people. So let's collectively lynch them. Let's hang them up from a tree because they've done bad things. They're bad.
That's it.
And we shouldn't
tolerate
badness.
Extremist views.
And unless just to finish out, unless you know what it's like to be harassed by thousands and thousands of people online, maybe take a step back and consider whether or not doxing someone is a smart idea, because it ruins people. It absolutely ruins people. Go on, do your segue.
I was just going to say, speaking of bad people, Daniel Ek, Spotify CEO to artists. You can't record music once every 3 or 4 years and think that's going to be enough. Daniel Ek suggests the secret to success is not higher Spotify payout rates, but more output from musicians. Oh, is that right? Aye, no bother, Daniel. So what you actually want is just complete quantity so that you can make more money off the back of everyone else's labour. More when you already essentially scalp every musician on the planet.
Yeah.
No bother, mate. Get fucked.
Well,
get absolutely fucked.
Shock horror. I'm going to have a hot take on this one.
I can't wait. I mean, I know you're probably going to say he's telling the truth, but...
Well, let's do the conclusion now, and then we'll talk more about it, because I know there's definitely an in-depth discussion, right? This guy, there's no doubt in my mind, I won't argue for a second that he's a monumental cockbag. Like, I wouldn't even try and argue anything other than that. Not a fan in the slightest. But there's this... When discussing something like this, it's very easy to get pulled into the emotional side of things of this is how things were and we need to go back to how things were, right? It's never going to sit well that the guy that is giving you the solution is one of the main reasons why it is the way it is. But it doesn't change the fact that based on the system that we find ourselves in, he is right, and that it's worth acknowledging he is right. How viable what he's saying is another matter entirely, but just this idea of, in the society that we live in today, let's talk, like we talked about Trapped on the last podcast, that are currently celebrating the fact that, and whether or not this number is true or not is another matter entirely, but bragging about the fact that we've almost crossed 5,000 album sales. That's not enough. That's just not enough. Simply not enough. And that's the first album they've released in like 4 years. So if they're putting, even if the album was free, even if they made it for free, sorry, not that they were giving it away for free, if it cost them no money to make it, if they're releasing an album every 4 years and selling 5,000 copies of it, that's not financially viable. It's just not financially viable. I'll sell double that amount of books this year. And that's something that's just ongoing. That's something that's constantly ongoing. If you told me that my business now will be making a product every 4 years, and every 4 years I'll sell 5,000 copies, I'll sell 1,000 copies of something a year. It's from a business perspective, you would be foolish to just sort of go, oh, well, I'm just going to continue to do that because that's the way it always has been. You will become destitute in no time whatsoever. Music will become a hobby for you. You know what I mean?
Yes, but I don't agree necessarily that's the only solution. It's like saying to someone who's on minimum wage, I know you're working 60 hours a week, but you need to work 80 because you can't sustain it on 60. Rather than looking at it and going, well, actually, I work for Amazon and Jeff Bezos is the world's first trillionaire. Maybe if he wasn't a wealth hoarding fuck, people would be alright. Maybe if he even if he was just taxed appropriately and wages were paid properly, things would be stimulating not only for the workers but for the full economy. I'm not getting into politics, but you can't necessarily just put the blame on the small man at all times. I think you're right that people have to output a lot because the current economic climate we're in is very much a fast-paced consumerist style, if you know what I mean by that. Like, everything is, we want it now, we want more, we want you, constant. Right, cool. Be a band that has a good amount of output, try and do as much as you can as often as you can, but not being paid enough for album streams the solution shouldn't just be you release more music. It should be, how about Spotify, instead of scalping every artist that you survive through, don't try and blame them for them not making enough money. Maybe try and put some money back in their pockets. Incentivize people. That's how it works.
If I'll bring up an artist, right, and this is as far as artists go, this one you and I have the longest history with. One guy that clearly understands this is Buckethead, right?
I think Buckethead is just the most prolific songwriter you've ever met, just because it's literally like, I don't mean that as in like every single song is completely different and there's always brand new output, but he just seems to be this guy that never stops. There's probably hundreds of other artists like that,
yeah,
but nobody that does quite as much as him.
Yeah,
120 albums in 1 year.
Yeah.
Real thing, the genuine number.
Yeah, and but you know, the argument and the issue I've always had with Buckethead is like, to me, 99.9% of his content is all filler stuff. It's here's a loop, and here's me playing over it for a while, and that is a style. Like, don't get me wrong, that's absolutely like an entire genre of music that is like that, and some people are like really, really into that. We had a guy that was recommending I can't bring it up without ruining the screen, but there's an album that he played on with some other people, and on the cover there's a dragon, and I forget the name of it, but he pushed me to listen to it, and I sat down and I listened to it, and it just didn't do anything for me, because it didn't feel like the tracks really went anywhere. It was like,
is that Bernie's Bucket of Bits with Bernie Worrell and Brain and a couple other people?
No. It was some Asian themed album, like I said, like a Chinese dragon on the cover of it, some collaborative album. But what I felt when I was listening to it is, after the first minute of the track, it's like, right, I've heard this song now. It's going to go on for another 6 minutes, but nothing new is going to happen. It's just going to be some guys having some fun over it, and that's not for me. And you know, Buckethead fans, please don't dox me in the way that Taylor Swift fans might. But I acknowledge that that's cool for you. Some of you guys really like that stuff, and I think it's great that stuff exists. That's what Buckethead has had to do to remain sort of financially stable. And I think that for some reason I want to bring Megadeth in as an example. You look at a band like Megadeth, that we know there's a new album on the way. Kiko tuned into my live stream last night and made a few comments about it, existing. Told me there's some slide guitar on it, which blows me away. Slide guitar on a Megadeth record from Kiko Loureiro, fantastic. So if Megadeth, when did Dystopia come out? It's like 5 years ago.
It's not as long ago as that, surely.
So it's a long time ago.
I think you are actually probably about right. 5 years ago, 2016, 4 years ago.
I just think that
there's a story about that, and I'll tell you after the podcast if you remind me.
I just think that if Megadeth were releasing more content, I don't necessarily mean big albums, but just engaging more with their fans and having just more output, they're going to be able to drive more traffic to other things. It's hard to put into words. I guess I'm trying to say, like, the only way that you can survive in business, just in general, is adapt. Don't be Blockbuster Video.
Who didn't buy
Netflix
for $1 million, which is like a drop in the ocean compared to what they even put into production for one thing now.
Yeah.
Apparently they laughed him out the boardroom.
Yeah.
Whoever it is that run Blockbuster at the time must be still kicking them fucking selves, man.
Don't get me wrong, with this situation with Spotify, I'm certainly no fan of where the music business has gone, but there's this, I think, as musicians and as fans of music, we often have this disconnect where we talk about music and there's the romanticized idea of what music always has been and has been to us growing up, and it's a very conservative view, like things shouldn't change, like let's keep things how things were.
If it's not broke, don't fix it. But it kind of is broke, so people are still trying to fix it.
And there's the other side of it where it's like, well, we can keep this romanticized idea of what music was, complain about the fact that it's not that anymore, and fade away into nothingness, or we can try and work out a way to move with the evolving state of the music business. Because really think about it, the music business in itself is not an old thing. We've had recorded music for a little over 100 years, like 100 and 120 odd years now. So this idea of the record industry, we're looking at it like, oh, it's just the way it's always been. But you'll look back on human society in 500 years' time, and you look back on all of the maybe someone will listen to this podcast in 500 years' time. You look back on the music industry, and it will have changed so dramatically because it's 500 years has taken by. In the grand scheme of human history, 100 years just isn't much. So this trying to keep things the way they were. I'm not necessarily saying that the way things are going is better. I don't believe that, and I don't think that music is going to be nearly as profitable for musicians as it once was. The heyday is long fucking gone, but that doesn't mean that it isn't viable. And I really do think that Daniel Ek, although like the definition of a parasite, somebody that has made so much money from the hard work, the creative work of other people, you have to acknowledge that someone like that has been as successful as that, they might have some pointers that you can glean something from, or you can just continue to complain about the fact that the music industry isn't what it was.
I mean, the other option you've got is, which is something that I think a lot of people have embraced in the past and maybe aren't thinking about embracing now, is that, like, I don't want to say necessity is a mother of invention, but when things are hard, people often find another way, whether it's illegal or legal, round these situations, which I think is where piracy and all that came from.
Yep.
Even, are you familiar with the term ribs music?
No.
From Eastern Bloc, essentially, when all Western music was banned,
right,
behind the Berlin Wall and stuff, and then and the communist and socialist areas of Europe, they used to take old x-rays, and the x-ray material was then cut down and printed. They printed the music on that like a vinyl, because it was a similar material.
Sure.
And because most of the x-rays were of ribs and chests, it was called ribs.
Okay.
So ribs is the term, and it's like, I think Czechoslovakia was the biggest place it was popular in. But this is like basically how they bootleg the music to keep it alive and still get Western music coming in.
Right.
The same as you hear about like in North Korea, that people bootleg films, even though Western films and pretty much any art from the West is kind of demonised, and you would get in trouble for having it. But there's a really big underground smuggling circuit of people sharing USBs and DVDs and all that kind of stuff. Like, people will find a way to make these things accessible outside of financial things, if you know what I mean. Like, illegal downloading happened because people wanted to share music via the internet. They found a way to do it. What I think will maybe happen is, I would like to think there will be some sort of, somebody will find a loop or a way that kind of takes Spotify out of its necessity. It's such a convenient platform at the moment. Somebody else is going to find another way that's going to circumvent that. Right. That might benefit musicians better.
Yeah, no, I doubt it.
Or at the very least take Spotify out the ticket. Like, the last thing I can think of that was done clever was actually Wolfpack released a silent album. You remember that?
Sure. And
just encouraged everybody to stream it. It's called Sleepify. When they were going to bed, just leave it on, it's silent, it doesn't matter. Leave the album in loop as long as you want. And then they generated like 40 grand in streams.
That was enough for them to go on tour, yeah.
Aye, so like, I mean, that's really clever. It is. It's stupid. It's so stupid. It's really clever.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
It was something that we talked about, and there has to be that admiration of they're doing the thing that I'm saying you need to do, which is they're looking at the state that the industry is in and working out a way to make what you are doing viable in it. And I just think that I need to really clarify this point. Like, I'm reading this tweet: music equal product and must be churned out regularly, says billionaire Daniel Ek. Go fuck yourself. This is from Mike Mills. And like, he's absolutely right, but also at the same time, you have to look at this situation and go, be honest with yourself. If you release an album every 4 years and it costs you fucking 15 grand to make, you will not make money. You just will not make money. And the inevitable conclusion of that is we can no longer afford to make albums because they are not financially viable. You need to make your product, your albums, you need to make that cost less for you to make. Now, this is the really shitty thing, because I don't think that the solution for this is a drop in quality. We often talk about video games on the show, right? Next generation, video games are going to be more expensive, and they absolutely should be. They absolutely need to be. We haven't had a rise in game prices virtually fucking ever. Factoring in inflation, games are cheaper than they have ever fucking been. You could go back, I could show you fucking catalogs from like when I was a kid, and you would pay like £70 for like Street Fighter 2 £70 fucking pounds. Convert that
Yep.
to today's money, right? Think about how much money Street Fighter 2 cost to make and how many people were involved in making it. And now you're looking at games and it's teams of hundreds and hundreds of people working for years and years to bring you a product, and then you're complaining about the fact that it's £50 or $60 or whatever. It's just, there's absolutely an argument that when you look at that, you could say, yeah, but as a consumer, I didn't ask for you to put all of this work in. I don't need you to work on something for 5 years with a team of almost 1,000 people. I don't need that. There's room in that industry for games that aren't as grand in scope as that. You're really into some of the smaller indie projects, not like indie like I am, but I mean they're obviously bigger projects now. But like I know you were really into PUBG when that was a thing. Was it PUBG you were playing?
I played PUBG. I played DayZ.
Yeah, DayZ.
Early alpha and beta games. I wanted to play Tarkov, but even as an early access it was like 60 odd quid,
right?
And I was like, no. But that just proves your point.
Yeah,
like even when it's small development teams who are going to make the most of that money to do the best they can with what is an incredible product. Like I think every time I watch people playing Tarkov or I see videos of it or whatever, it looks amazing. The mechanics are great, the atmosphere is great,
sure.
The sound effects are well done. It's a really good immersive simulator almost,
sure.
Like, in the sense that it drops you in it. But let's just have a right good hot take here.
Go on.
The arts are not valued
anywhere
near what they should be, and
absolutely.
that's not really a hot take in the sense that nobody will disagree with that.
Sure.
But people like you and I who are championing, talking about it and making this a popular point and pointing it out as viscerally and as obvious as possible, that even people who are trying to be, I don't know, ambassadors for paying the right amount of money for something and getting the value and the price right, both probably are guilty. And I know I'm speaking certainly for myself, guilty of exactly what you said. Like, can I quite justify 50 quid for this game? Even though when you look at it, you're like, I know this has taken years,
sure.
And a lot of hours and a lot of people and a lot of money and a lot of effort and a lot of technology and manpower to get to where it is.
Yeah, but the point that I was trying to make is that we're in this weird place where we're talking to artists and saying this is what you need to do to be a little bit financially more viable. You need to think about the business side of things, but we're also trying to talk to the consumer, and we're trying to say that you need to value the art, you need to value the product. You have to put some sort of financial value to it, or else the art will cease to exist. So when I did the video game thing, and you're absolutely right, like I'll look at a new game. When The Last of Us 2 came out, I was dying to play it, but I was like, I can't be spending £60 on this right now because I need to be sensible about where I'm spending my money. I don't look at that and say, well, this game is too expensive, because it's not. The game is absolutely worth what they're charging for it, in the same way that as consumers we should be able to look at the art, the music that artists are making, and we should absolutely be able to say this is worth the £10, £15 price tag that you might put on things if you were to download it or buy a CD or whatever it happens to be. What I'm saying with video games is I play a lot of indie games, right, that cost a fraction of what a AAA title costs to make. And while I might not get, actually tell a lie, I play a game like Binding of Isaac and I've got hundreds and hundreds of hours out of that game. I've got so much enjoyment out of that game. This entire arm is tattooed with Binding of Isaac stuff. Like I'm a huge fan of that game. I've got so many hours of enjoyment out of games that haven't needed to cost nearly as much because they haven't been as big a project. So this idea of like the next Megadeth album that I know is going to cost an absolute fucking fortune to make, like I don't necessarily need that. There's just sort of an acceptable standard. It needs to function as a piece of art. As long as a video game functions as a piece of art. My wife's really into and I know Nance has got it queued up to play as well, Stardew Valley.
Stardew Valley, yep.
So that was made by one man. One guy made that entire game over a period of like three or so years, and he's now a multi-millionaire.
It's a bit like the wee guy that done Undertale. I don't know how he is success-wise, but that was a real critical hit.
Yeah.
People were like, Jesus Christ, like this guy made went to a lot of effort to do all of this, and same as Stardew Valley, all the programming, all the art, graphics, all the audio, all the art, all the dialogue, all the character building, all the interactions, everything one person. Yeah. Level design, one person.
I mean, it can't have taken long to do the art for Undertale, right?
No, you'd be surprised. Like,
no, it's got a style.
Do you not think that? I mean, there's about 40 different bosses as well.
Yeah, no, but just when you think of that game, like the style of it is like those line drawing type things, and it's obviously
cheap
got a style.
8-bit shit. Like there's no doubt, but
doing like Stardew Valley would have involved learning how to do pixel art. And I can't imagine, and I know the guy learnt to do the pixel art stuff. I can't imagine he like did all the art for the game, did all the characters, and then a couple of years in, I read a book on it actually, a couple of years in, his skills had improved so much with pixel art that he then went back and redid everything that he'd done so it looked better. I know pixel art is generally like those sprite based characters as well it's a very labor intensive thing to do. So
fuck that.
I think the thing that the music industry could take from the game industry is just looking at this idea that we do have a sort of middle ground product. There is a middle ground product in the game industry. You don't need to spend a fortune. You can go out there and support people and send that message actually to the big game creators that there is this market in the middle here where you can be making products. You can be making £25-30 games that don't take years and years to fucking make. There is a market. As Buckethead has shown, there is a market for albums that don't take you 4 fucking years to make. Symphony X, where's your next fucking album? I really want a fucking album. Hurry up and release it. Thank you, scientists. Get a fucking album on the go.
I think it would be fair to say that Buckethead's not really an example of what you're saying, because he's got a rabid fan base. He has got that folklore fan base, right? Yep. Being in Guns N' Roses probably was a good earner for him. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Chinese Democracy probably gives him a lot more money than about 300 of his albums combined.
Yeah.
But he's more of the exception to the rule because he is such a strange guy with such a strange... I want to say he's got his own lore. Yeah. Because he has, like, who is he? What's his real name? Where did he come from? Did he actually grow up in a chicken coop? Can he actually talk? Why does he use that crazy puppet all the time? Like, you know what I mean? Like, crazy stories, but...
Yeah. You're totally right.
What you're getting at right now is support the little guy, support the middle ground guy, buy a Guitar Souls t-shirt, buy the Hellcat Molly album, buy Party Cannon stuff.
Yeah.
Look after, like, I'm not being daft when I say that, but genuinely see bands that you are a wee bit into, aren't signed to major labels, are selling their own CDs, have their own merch on their own websites, Bandcamps, etc. Big Cartel. Go and spend 30 quid with them, because that 30 quid's got way more power than it is if you go and buy 2 albums out of HMV.
Yeah.
Way more.
And what you're saying there is you're talking to the consumer, you're talking to the person that is buying the music. I want to sort of throw the response message, or the counter, not even the counter, the thing you throw on top of that to the artist, which is engage with your fan base more, engage at this lower level. Stop treating yourself like you're a AAA developer, because it's not financially viable to be AAA anymore. No, you need to bring that down and just be part of the fan base now. Think, like, if you're, I keep saying Megadeth, right, but go back to Dave Mustaine, go back, think in your mind to what it was like playing in Metallica before you were signed, right? That idea of playing a show and then afterwards, like, talking to all of your fans, just embracing them and building up that community and hype around your brand. Like, unfortunately, you need to take that step back. You need to start engaging with people more. Like I say, Kiko tuned into my live stream last night. That's so unbelievably cool. Just taking 10 minutes out of his day to engage. Gave me an even better opinion of him. I have a high opinion of him anyway. But
man,
for people that meet,
every time you spoke about, like, speaking to him, you've always just been like, nicest guy ever. Yeah. Just so cool. Just, like, actually like a human being.
Yeah. But all the people that were watching the live stream who were commenting in the comment section that also saw him in that comment section, you know, that pays off for him. It's a good thing for him to do, because now not only do I already know he's a good guy, but now everybody else can go, that's fucking cool. Oh, nice. He doesn't think he's better than everyone else. He just will engage with us and just be a part of things with us. In that respect, like, social media has been really fucking good for us. So, having said that, should we do the final bit of doom and gloom?
Let's do it. I'll let you do this because I haven't gave this much a read.
Sure. So there's so much music on Spotify that artists are paying for you to hopefully find them. And there we go. So after all of and this was posted like a couple of days before this Daniel X story came out, right? A basic rundown of this. Daniel X said, this was a while ago, Daniel X said this, that 40,000 tracks are getting uploaded to Spotify every day. I'm just looking for that number again just to triple confirm that. It's in there somewhere. Yeah. So CEO Daniel Ek estimated that roughly 40,000 new songs were hitting the platform every day, and by now that number has likely risen. So if 40,000 songs are being uploaded to Spotify every day, it's kind of like that promoter that promotes all the bands and doesn't need to worry about actually promoting the shows because they'll just bring 1 or 2 people in. If you're Daniel Ek and you've got 40,000 people uploading a track, they don't all need to get 100,000 streams for your business to be viable. If they all get 100 streams, you're doing all right, type thing. So artists now need to do something to stand out, to be ahead of the curve. So how the hell do you pronounce that name? Juans?
I would say Vans, yep.
Let's go with Vans.
Juans?
Yeah, that's what I tried to say, but British tongue doesn't work. A 20-year-old aspiring...
Same age.
What?
That's what we're calling him now. Same age.
Same
which
age.
is James backwards.
Okay, yeah, let's do that. He's an aspiring artist from St. Catharines, Ontario, with a flexible voice and lancing falsetto. He released his first EP in 2019, but thousands of artists who upload their music to Spotify daily, as with thousands of artists, no one cared, right? Quote, there's just a lot of competition. You can't just put out a song and hope that you'll be the lucky one that goes viral. So he started to ask around about marketing companies that could help increase his music's exposure. He found that one agreed to aid him for a $2,000 fee. Company promised to reach out to a network of independent playlists and dedicated followers on Spotify and make sure that they added his songs to their collection. They said that I would get 100,000 streams on 2 of my songs. The company did even better than it predicted, earning him thousands more streams than expected on 1 track. He then goes on to say, I would recommend it for artists who are independent like myself. We need to get our music seen and heard by as many people as possible. This is the dystopia that we live in now. You spend thousands and thousands on an album, making an album, and then literally the artists are saying, well, what you need to do to get 100,000 streams and make no money is you need to pay out more money to somebody else, another middleman that can help you reach an audience.
You know where this comes from? In my mind, this is just asking someone who doesn't have money to have a marketing budget.
Yeah.
You're only going to work well if you have the marketing that pushes you forward or have the right connections. If you don't have the right connections, you need to pay $2,000 to this person who will put your 2 songs on playlists. You'll be guaranteed at least 100,000 streams on 2 songs, and nothing else is guaranteed. You might get lucky and make money. You might have 2 songs that look like viral hits and fuck all else.
Yeah.
I'm not being daft, but I don't think the whole point in this article is just to say that artists believe that putting their stuff on Spotify through DistroKid, as you mentioned earlier, is going to get them any sort of fame. No, because you need to market. That's how it works.
Yeah,
you either have a product that people are hot as fuck on, or you market like fuck. That's your 2 options.
My stuff is on Spotify not because I think that being on Spotify will help me find an audience. My stuff is on Spotify so there's somewhere that I can send people who I've made my audience, you know? I would love it if Spotify bought in followers for me. That would be fantastic. But I'm a tiny, tiny, insignificant piece of pond algae, of fish scum, if you like, in an ocean. There are much, much, much bigger fish. Spotify care a lot more about Taylor Swift being happy with her new album, or paying Joe Rogan $100 million to only release his podcast on Spotify. So again, there's a fly.
Let's not mention fucking Joe Rogan. He get paid way more than any artist, probably most artists combined. Yeah. From Spotify. So fuck Spotify, not fuck Joe Rogan. That guy's just done well for himself. I can't hate the player, you need to hate the game. Daniel Ek, don't talk about how artists need to release 3 and 4 fucking an album less than you can't expect to release an album every 3 or 4 years and make money and then pay one person who wasn't even on your platform $100 million. Shut the fuck up. How does that sound?
I on Joe Rogan, like, I have to take minor issue with Joe because he's been in the press this week because he's been very anti-video games. Did a long rant about how people that play video games are just wasting their time, right? And his counter to it is, you could pick up like jiu-jitsu or something like that, and if you spent a year doing jiu-jitsu rather than a year playing video games, you would have achieved something with your life. And after 4 years of doing that rather than 4 years of playing video games, you'll be of a pretty acceptable standard. And I just have to look at that and say, what is your measuring stick for achieving something? Like, you're putting value on this idea of, oh, okay, so this person knows martial arts, therefore they've achieved something. personal achievement is not something that is measured by anyone outside of where you are. Like, I've been playing guitar, and some people would consider that a waste of fucking time because I make wiggly air, and I could have spent that time, like, I don't know, learning quantum physics. There's always a better use of your time. So, Joe, I like you sometimes, but that seems like a bit of an idiotic comment. Having said that, of course, I'm playing Sekiro, so I am wasting all of my time at the moment.
You're not. You are reinforcing and improving your motor skills, your fine motor skills, your reaction times. You're learning patterns. I'm
bankrupting myself because I've had to buy 16 new controllers because I keep smashing the ones that I have. No, that's not true. I'm actually doing absolutely fine on it. But
just imagine you buying a bulk buy of like 20 controllers directly from PlayStation. I'm
going to ask for help from our listener base, right? What I would really love is one of our listeners. This is a total aside, right? What I would love is our listener base to find and locate somewhere where I can buy original Coca-Cola cherry Coke, not zero, but original Coke cherry in bulk. Right?
Does it have to be in cans?
It has to be in cans. Right. Okay. I've recently learned that cans are the best way to consume a fizzy drink because from the fridge that will be consistently colder than a glass bottle or a plastic bottle. So I cannot find this at a reasonable price for love nor money.
The cheapest you're probably going to get it will be 61 pence a can. So a case 8 would be £14.71. And that's from a cash and carry.
Yeah,
so
no.
I've answered your question before it's even went out.
No. So you could buy it. You can buy it from. When I buy it from Asda, it's cheaper than that. You pay £3.50 for 6 cans. When you factor in cash and carry and shipping prices, etc. Like I found somewhere where I can get 24 cans. I think it was 24 cans for £14. Plus shipping costs on that, so it ends up being like £19. It's just not. I don't consider that to be a good deal. I'll buy 100 cans. I'll buy 100. That's fine. I don't mind. I'll buy 200, and I'll just store them in my garden and put them in my fridge as and when I need them. I'm tired of how expensive it is to buy a fucking cherry Coke. It's my favourite thing in the world. I like it more than guitars. This isn't an endorsement, but if you would like to sponsor the podcast, Coca-Cola, I would really thoroughly enjoy that. I don't want regular Coke. Fuck regular Coke, but cherry, yes. It's like exceptionally good Dr. Pepper.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
You know what I found's pretty good for that stuff? Amazon, usually.
Yeah, there is. I have seen a seller on there that does like 72 cans of cherry Coke for like £48 or something, and I am considering it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Coca-Cola cherry, 72 cans, 330ml cans, £46.99 with free delivery.
Yeah.
And the review is, happy hobby by Plippy. We have had trouble getting cherry Coke for a while, so when I treated hobby to this, he was so happy. I have limited him to 2 a day though, and obviously they've not finished that sentence, because we don't want him to die of a diabetic coma.
If you're drinking 2 cans of that a day, you will die of a diabetic coma.
He's limited to 2. Can you imagine this guy was rattling a fucking case?
Mate, I think that if I got really, I've had a rough week mentally. I've not been, I wouldn't say depressed, right? But there's certainly been moments this week where the only way I could describe myself is flat. I felt flat. I've not really wanted to do anything. I've not been miserable. I'm just like, what is the point today? On a day like that, if something like that got really bad, I could absolutely see myself going, fuck it, I'm going to drink 72 cans of this stuff and just say goodbye to everybody.
Goodbye to the ones who hated me. Yeah. Goodbye to the ones who loved me. Goodbye, everybody.
Mate, that's a deep cut. I thoroughly enjoy that. Right, did you know? I'm not even bothering to fucking segue. This show has been brought to you by Ormsby Guitars. If you are unfamiliar with Ormsby and what they do, I would recommend you head on over to ormsbyguitars.com. Absolutely wonderful instruments made out of Australia by Perry Ormsby. You know, they focus on a lot of really interesting things, probably most notably the multi-scale thing. You can see a couple of them hanging behind my head. I am a big fan of the Goliath series. Having said that, I've also almost ordered myself a hite over the years, and I think the thing that Ormsby do that, well, lots of companies have dabbled in, but they do a great job of it, it is these runs of builds. You can go on their website now, check out the pre-order section of their website, and you will see a series of upcoming runs of guitar. You can get in on those with prepayment plans and really get yourself a nice, well-built instrument for an unbelievable price. So thanks to Ormsby Guitars for supporting the show. Go and check them out and let them know that we sent you. Thanks very much. So, as always, a massive thank you to our friends over at Ormsby Guitars. Maybe get in touch with them and ask Perry if he will make you a cherry coke coloured Goliath, and then you can have a one-of-a-kind Goliath, just like I do, because don't you dare release that guitar. That is my guitar. That is the not Levi Clay signature. No, hopefully all of you guys can manage to get your hands on one of my signature guitars, because it's totally my signature. It's mine. Don't you take it. Yeah, Mike, any closing messages for our lovely friends, family, fans, and all of those good people that are taking the time out their day to listen to us?
Yes. As soon as I feel better, my content will be better. I might be more engaging. But for now, and as always, thank you very much for your beautiful, beautiful time. I know time is very precious. It is a commodity, let's be honest, and very finite. And we both appreciate, we talk about it all the time, whether recording or not, about how grateful we are that people would bother to listen to us for an hour or so talking shit. And that I don't think we'd be considered as authorities, but that people take our opinion as something to listen to. And that's cool. I like that, even if it's just a talking point or as a point of contradiction or whatever. Like, we appreciate it. Thank you very much. If you would like to support us further, you can buy a Guitar Souls t-shirt or some merchandise. Links down below. If you can't, or you don't want to, or you can't afford it, not a problem. Don't sweat it. You can like and subscribe to Levi's channel. You can listen to us on SoundCloud. We are still thinking about if there are any other platforms that we can get ourselves onto that aren't going to cost an arm and a leg to try and host on. If you have any suggestions, I've had a few people reach out about suggestions. Bring them forward. If it's viable, we'll do it. If it's not, we'll do our best to get there. Thanks for supporting us. Someone send me £1 million, thanks.
Yeah, that would be absolutely fantastic. I like you said there, like, apologise. Let's try that again. I like that you said there that, you know, when you feel better, your content will be better. I think you've been great today. I think you've been absolute fire. And that's a sign of you're becoming a podcaster now, right? You, the red light goes on.
Episodes in.
Yeah. the red light goes on and you just switch into the zone, because people obviously don't know this. They don't see you before the camera is on, but just there you smiled and you laughed, right? And prior to recording this podcast, I'm just sat looking at you going, oh dear, this might not be a funny episode, but you know,
for people watching, I'll do an exact replica of what happened an hour and 20 minutes ago before we started recording. It was literally 5 minutes of this.
And I'm just sat thinking, this is gonna be great, but
fucking hate this. I hate everyone. Fucking. And then it was like Freddie Mercury, show must go on.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? They just need to fucking crack on.
That's actually something we need to do more of on the show. I think a game where we sing stuff at each other. Like, you remember Nevermind the Buzzcocks with it was on Nevermind the Buzzcocks, wasn't it, where they'd sing like intros to tunes and stuff, because
is it the no, the karaoke round, the cabaret round? It was Shooting Stars. Yes. Vic Reeves and Bob Mortimer.
Yeah.
It was Bob Mortimer would do the kind of weird versions of songs.
Yeah. So we could do that. We could do stuff like that. And I know people thoroughly enjoy hearing you sing and are mortified when I do it. So there you go. There's an idea to float out for everyone.
Well, for everyone that would like to hear me singing, there's a good reason why I bought a very good microphone recently. So if you're patient, you might get to hear me singing.
Yeah.
Actually on a track.
Fingers crossed. Mike.
Who knows?
Until next time.
Sayonara, fuckers.